Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I want to talk about post number 1, Dev Diary, the future of quests. As always, there will be a link to the forum in the description below if you'd just rather read it yourself, as well as a timestamp to skip the read aloud if you're one of those people who doesn't want to sit and listen to me read it. Totally understandable. That said, let's dive right in. So Summoners, part 1 of our roadmap is live. Head over to our blog to read thoughts on the past, present, and future of quests and Marvel Contest of Champions. Our team goes over what we've learned from the Book 2 Act 1 beta test and how we'll be moving forward, revisions to Act 6 and the champion boss fight, and much more. Read all about it on our blog. Click here. As we mentioned in the post, we'd like to hear from you, our players, on what your Act 6 pain points with certain bosses were. We have some of our own plans and targets in the work, but they're still early on and we don't want to limit the possibilities by talking specifics just yet. We're going to set up a player focus group with a selection of 20 to 30 summoners from across the battle realm and work with them to do some discovery surrounding what made some of the more troubling fights problematic. We're looking for players that have attempted Act 6 and can identify areas in which they felt they faced a challenge that was more difficult than they expected. Apply to be part of the Act 6 pain point player focus group here. That said, the actual post itself, building the best content. Kabam Gagi, lead quest designer. Hey everybody, Kabam Gagi here. We've gathered up a few members of the team to talk about what we're working on right now and how we're looking towards the future of the quest and the contest. Quests have transformed a lot in the 5 years since release. Originally, story was the only real attraction outside of our daily offerings, and having a couple rank 1 4-stars was more than enough to see you through all that there was. With the release of Ultron's Assault, we saw the excitement that smaller scheduled quests could create, and the possibility of space for fun, both for designers and players, made available by that format. From there, it was an easy decision to continue rolling out new challenges and stories for our many summoners, and the rest is history. It's been a long road from that transformative time, and we've settled into regular releases that tell the story of our new champions, offer up new challenges to show off their power, and distribute rewards to summoners who overcome those challenges. Within these rapid iterations on our quest structure, we aim to innovate within our structural bounds as much as we can, and also grow alongside our players both in the strategies used and the limits of power available. As we continue through year 5, we have some new goals and refinements for quests, as well as some exciting new stuff to show you. This is just the next few months, and there's plenty more after that. A new vision. First, we can talk about the overall direction of quests, what we're working on broadly and looking towards the future. Right now, we're focused on smoothing out the existing experiences. We've spent a lot of time discussing the current direction of quests in the game and what exactly we're aiming to accomplish in each category, while also considering each audience and what they want from the game. While not every quest has major concerns to chase down, there are some big ticket items we want to hit, some of which we'll go into more detail on below. As always, we strive to find effective ways to expand our offerings in quests, doing our best to involve and entertain a broad assortment of players. One of the better ways we're looking to do this is by creating play spaces where a wide variety of champions are effective, or where less potent champions get their due. This is collaborative, an effort that is shared by our incredible RPG team that continues to not only roll out exciting new champions, but also give greatly deserved updates to some older or underperforming ones. I've seen some of the stuff they have planned. It's exciting. We're also taking a step back to put work into content that needs it. Book 2's first beta was not received well, and in many ways we agreed with the feedback. We wanted to have a quicker pace of releases so the ongoing story could be revealed faster and higher echelons of challenge could be more readily available. We knew this might come with some sacrifice, but feedback made it clear we had gone too far in some directions. Thankfully, this response gave us both greater purpose and helpful direction when returning to the drawing board, and you'll see the fruits of that process in Welker's breakdown on the Book 2 plans below. While I hope the above makes it clear, I want to stress that we always welcome feedback, even if it's critical of our decisions. We regularly use data to get a bird's eye view of quests, and we can learn a lot from that, but data can be disconnected from the moment-to-moment experience of a player in the game. Ultimately, even when we're building a crafty challenge or trying to create an intended spike in difficulty, we want quests to be fun to experience and satisfying to triumph over. If we're not hitting that mark, we want to know. Back issues number 5. One thing we've heard loud and clear in recent days is that back issues and its variant difficulty are high on the list of summoner desires in the contest. I'm happy to report that while we were originally scaling back releases on these, we've taken a swerve and are getting them back into the roadmap in a more focused way. I'm personally excited about this because back issues are some of my favorite quests to work on and a project I and many others are very passionate about. Back issues number 5. Blood and Venom will be no exception. We'll be going back to champion requirements, but keeping them act-wide and layering that in with some tag-targeted buffs that will make certain champions very potent in the right place. As for who, I can tell you for sure that the man of the hour, his greatest rival, and the hero who hunted him should all be present on your front line. Or someone like them anyway. Back issues number 5 will be released in August as part of our 28.0 build. We're already working on figuring out what back issues number 6 will be, and I'm hoping we'll see it before 2020 is over. No promises though, it's a pretty busy year for us already. For now, I'll pass it over to Kabam Welker to talk about Act 6 and some tweaks we're looking into. Act 6, Kabam Welker, Quest Designer. Hello folks, Kabam Welker here with an update on designs and directions for Act 6. Act 6 is an immense piece of story content, but we acknowledge that there are some serious pain points inside of it that need to be addressed and corrected. While some changes will require deeper investigation, there are others that we are confident about going ahead with. Updating the champion boss fight. The champion was intended to be a fierce and demanding skill check for players and their rosters, fitting for late and endgame content. We know he can still deliver on that intent without being as hard of a gut check, so we'll be rolling out some updates to his encounter. Damage taken from Nullify in the main event phase will be reduced from 10% to 2%. Block penetration for the champion will be reduced by 50%. The dexterity requirements in his final phase will be reduced from 5 to 3, and removing the no retreat buff node. Reducing attack values across the entire act. Attack values for opponents is something we're committed to focusing more on with every new piece of content we're developing. We're going back into Act 6 and retuning encounters to bring their attack values more in line in comparison to Abyss of Legends and the Grandmaster boss in Act 6 Chapter 4. Attack values for path encounters in Act 6 Chapter 4 will be reduced by 40 to 60%, dropping them from 15,000 on average to closer to around 5 to 9,000 on average, with some even lower. Path fights in 6.3, 0.2, and 0.1 will be scaled down from the top value accordingly. Attack values for final bosses in Act 6 Chapter 4, excluding the Grandmaster, will be scaled down by 60 to 75%, dropping them from 22,000 on average to 6,500 to 10,000 on average. Final bosses in 6.3, 0.2, and 0.1 will be scaled down from that top value accordingly. Revisit pain point boss fights and path fights. It's clear to see that there are boss fights and path fights implemented in Act 6 that are far too demanding and niche for the majority of players to engage with. We will be reviewing each chapter in Act 6 and taking aim at the most egregious encounters and retuning their buff profiles to broaden options for viable counters or simplifying their requirements by stripping out unfair buff nodes. We'd like to hear from you, our players, on what your Act 6 pain points with certain bosses were. We have some of our own plans and targets in the works, but they're still early on, and we don't want to limit the possibilities by talking specifics just yet. We're going to set up a player focus group with a selection of 20 to 30 summoners from across the battle realm and work with them to do some discovery surrounding what made some of the more troubling fights problematic. Take a look at our forums to find out how you can get involved. You can also give us your feedback about Act 6 and the boss fights in our forums. When and how. We hope this all sounds like a positive step forward, but the burning questions will be, when are these changes coming, and what if I've already completed Act 6? Changes are coming before December. That's all the info we have. Cut in for there. For us, Book 2 is an important event for MCOC, and we want as many of you as possible to experience it. That's why our goal is to bring some, if not all, of these changes to the game before the launch of Book 2. Read on to find out when. As for those that have recently completed Act 6, we are exploring the options for compensation. We are discussing how we want to manage quest compensation into the future, especially for top-tier content. Book 2, Chapter 1. It's been a while since the Book 2, Act 1, Chapter 1 beta, and we've been hard at work turning intent into action. We've taken our previous comments about positive reinforcement, more mindful design intent, and respecting player investment and turned them into our goals for story content going forward. Reward player accomplishments. Rewards means more than just crystals and catalysts. While we have always planned to add more path-based rewards to Book 2 as a way of increasing value between completion and exploration, our new avenue for increasing rewards is inside of fights. Forcing players to struggle just to do the bare minimum against opponents was difficult and unsatisfying. Giving players opportunities for massive damage spikes and health recovery are themselves rewards, and we should be providing them to players more often. Outwitting a challenging champion or overcoming a tough buff node are accomplishments that deserve celebration. Path-based rewards will be added to Book 2 to fill the gap between completion and exploration. Fights will be designed to reward optimal play rather than punish suboptimal play. Respect player investments. We mentioned before that players have invested in the champions they want to play, and we are going to do a better job of giving them more avenues to be used. However, respecting player investment goes beyond champions. It means being more transparent about what is fair to expect and what is expected to be fair. So, the energy cost to complete a path in Book 2 will not exceed 70 energy. The time required to complete a path is reduced as a part of reducing the scope of quest paths. RPG requirements for fights will be loosened to open up more avenues for counterplay. Empower players with choices. Most of the meaningful choices made by players happen at the start of a quest. Party composition, which path to start down, activating boosts, etc. This severely impacts opportunities for experimentation, specialization, and strategy because it forces players to front-load problem solving. Our aim for story content is to provide more decision-making opportunities inside of a quest, as well as expand on the variety of choices available. Story quests will feature multiple final bosses for more choice and less repetition. We're slowly rolling out new gameplay for use in Book 2 by introducing champion swapping in Chapter 1 inspired by incursions, and reduce player mental load. Asking players to draft complex battle plans to accomplish a single path in story content is a big ask, which is why we're reducing the size and complexity of all our maps. We're focusing more on designing less complex buffs, as well as layering fewer overlapping buffs on encounters. Lastly, we're going to begin signposting difficulties for paths. Being able to jump into a quest and see a clear indication of which paths are easy and which are difficult will speed up the process of determining where players decide they want to go. 1 minute. This is insanely long. The number of paths, length of paths, and fights per paths have been decreased. Expect fewer buffs on the majority of encounters, with simpler buffs being applied. Path difficulty will be scaled from easy to hardest with clear signposting to help identify them, rewards, PI tuning, etc. Challenge players with bosses. The climactic final fight in a quest shouldn't be a bottleneck of inescapable difficulty, but an opportunity for players to show off the strength of their roster and the scope of their skills. The structure for final bosses is undergoing a huge rework, with plans to not only deliver on simpler standalone challenges, but also to provide multiple final bosses per quest. Options and opportunity are key to more meaningful choices, and breaking free of the necessity of fighting the same final boss 6 to 9 times is a great way to bring more of both to story quests. Final bosses are being designed as standalone experiences that will rely less on niche RPG counters and hard skill requirements. Having multiple final bosses per quest will allow us to scale their difficulty and vary their challenges to keep the quest fresh for replays. The ultimate goal is to raise the quality bar and deliver on something more enjoyable, more engaging, and more unique. This means that story content is going to take more time to craft. Instead of the updated release cadence of fewer quests more often, we're going back to more time between releases with more quests being released. Our new projected release date for Book 2, Act 1, Chapter 1 is December of 2020, with plans for a new chapter every 6 months. We promise you it will be worth the wait. Cavalier Difficulty. Kabam Frenchie, Senior Economy Designer. Overview. I know a lot of you have been waiting for it. Months after teasing its release, your favorite Frenchie is here to give you more context around the arrival of our new Cavalier Difficulty. The purpose of the new Cavalier Difficulty is to both help you build your roster to face the Grandmaster in Act 6, and also to prepare you for Book 2 of the contest. The new Cavalier Event Quest difficulty will be available to those that have achieved the Cavalier title, but that does not mean that once you reach the Cavalier title, exploring or even completing it will be a breeze. At launch, there will be a wide range of Cavalier players trying out this new difficulty, from someone that has recently achieved the milestone to a summoner that has countlessly beaten the Grandmaster. The power and skill level can vary widely. Our challenge is building a quest that can appeal to all of them. To do so, we are building an easy path in each quest, so that any Cavalier player can attempt to obtain the completion rewards without a super wide roster. The completion rewards will help you develop the breadth of your roster, helping you rank up your 5-star champions up to rank 5. Once your roster is wider and your skills sharper, you would be able to challenge yourself by attempting the exploration. Exploring the Cavalier Difficulty would require either a good amount of skill, a wide range of rank up champions, or a lot of power. But if you succeed, those tier 5 class catalyst fragments will be yours. Why did it take so long? The Cavalier title was released some time ago now, and while it brings some perks with it, without a new difficulty of monthly content, many of you have gone unchallenged by the uncollected difficulty. On the release of the Cavalier title, we didn't feel releasing an additional difficulty was the right way to give you your monthly content, as it is near impossible to appeal to and challenge everyone playing it. Continuously adding more and more difficulties could be overwhelming to newer players, be tedious to grind, hard to balance, and takes time to build. For all these reasons, we began looking into how we could make the event quest more organic, adapting itself to its players. As time went by without a solution, we heard your voices and decided that it was time to create this new difficulty. We apologize for the delay, and we hope to have a solution to our problem before the need for the next level of difficulty. Release date. The first Cavalier Difficulty will be available on September 2nd. I can hear the anticipation behind your screen, so to keep you sharp, we are going to run 2 side quest difficulties while we finalize the tuning of the event quests, starting this July with Canadian Difficulty. We are starting with our side quests because they are much more fluid when it comes to difficulty and rewards. While you battle against Sasquatch, we will gather data and feedback to help us ensure that everything is ready and in a good spot for September. If all goes well, you will see the new legendary side quest difficulty alongside the new Cavalier event quest difficulty. So July, Canadian Difficulty side quest, August, Herald Difficulty, and September, Cavalier Difficulty. Rewards boost. Story update. On March 12th, the new rewards for Act 1 went live. With that, we announced that more would be on the way. We are on the verge of releasing the new and improved Act 2 rewards, but we haven't revealed our plan. The reason behind it, and everyone's favorite topic, the compensation. Over the years, we have improved event quest rewards in order to help newer players progress faster to the mid-game by reducing farming time, but the story rewards did not improve at the same rate, building a disconnect between early story and event quests. This disconnect is big enough that a lot of players do not even explore the earlier acts anymore, something that we want to change. Goals. Our goal with the story update is to smooth out the progression curve, reducing the farming necessary to progress and reach each new title, and keeping the game interesting by exposing new players to more fun and better structured content, giving those top tier players more soldiers for their alliances. Simply put, for new players with no knowledge of the game, rewards and lessons in Act 1 should be enough to clear the content and start Act 2. If Act 2 seems too hard for you, fully exploring Act 1 should give you the extra boost to pursue the story easily. The same principle applies to future Act reworks, except that for each Act we ask you to do more extra content. If you are an experienced player creating an alternative account, with our current rework plan, you would not have to worry about anything outside of story mode until you reach mid-game content, perfect for doing progression challenges or a title-based speedrun. You might see some items disappear from the rewards, the T1 alphas, and Act 2 for instance, but it's so we can give them more abundantly later in more appropriate content. Our goal is to help new players focus on each rarity at a time, going from 2 stars in Act 1 to 3 stars in Act 2, and so on. To compensate for the investment in the lower rarity champions, we distribute a lot more gold, ISO, catalysts, rank up gems, awakening gems, sig stones, and champions than before. As well, we will be granting Nexus Champion Crystals to give more choice in early pulls. Units are staying, but we'll have a slightly different distribution. On top of the rewards, we are also reworking some quests through the introduction of path rewards, homogenization of the number of paths, power level curve rebalance, and encounters update. The work on the quest is why we are revamping one act at a time. It takes time to make the changes, and we must first understand the impact it will have on you. Please note, with the Act 2 update, all your quests will be wiped out, but you will not lose your progress. When you clear a quest, a flag is created in your account to say that you cleared it. Same thing when you explore a quest. Even though you may have already completed the quest, you will get the chance to replay it and collect the new one-time pickup path rewards. If you have not finished exploring the quest, you will have to redo all the paths in order to have it marked as explored. To help you either explore the quest or pick up the path rewards, if you enter a quest that has been wiped, a total of 11 quests across Act 2, you will be granted 10 small energy refills as well as 1 champion boost. This applies to everyone. Compensation. When we update an old act, we only compensate players who have cleared the content up to 3 months prior to the update. This content is or should be outpowered by anyone who cleared it more than 3 months before the update. A player working towards uncollected does not need the resources from previous acts to beat the collector, and even though we understand that in later acts like Act 4, the line is thinner and thinner as it takes more time to progress to the next title, the amount of data that needs to be processed to identify all players that have finished the content is so large that it becomes unrealistic for us to compensate a bigger bucket of players. Beyond the quest. Kabam That Jim, lead game designer. Hey folks, Kabam That Jim back again to wrap things up. Look, we're close to the end now, and I thank you for sticking around. I know it's been a long read, but I hope you've enjoyed it and it's got you excited and looking forward to what's coming next. As an additional treat, I have a bunch of fresh content for you, starting with a little tease at what else is to come from the pages of Book 2. It has been years since the sound of your fists breaking skulls has been backed by something fresh and befitting the impact of your 6-star strike with. That's why on the launch of Book 2, we have not 1, but 4 new audio tracks coming to the contest. Battle music, all new battle music that ups the ante on the original and strikes fear into wary summoners. Boss music, bigger, badder, and bolder. The new boss track is truly awe-inspiring. Quest exploration. Finally, when exploring a quest, you will hear all new music instead of the old menu sounds. Champion selection. Having a hard time choosing your team while perusing your roster has gotten even better with this brand new backing track. On top of the awesome new music will be a refreshed battle realm with all new visuals welcoming you to the maps of Book 2, including new iconography and chest designs. It's more than just new fights awaiting you in Book 2, and we can't wait for you to experience it all later this year. Boss Rush and more. Boss Rush. This summer we'll be releasing something that's a new spin on our Boss Rush content called the Summer Smackdown. You'll freely unlock a new Boss Rush each week for 5 weeks. Completing each week grants you an unlock item required to participate in the final week, the Omega Quest, which combines the previous 5 weeks bosses for the Ultimate Challenge. This content will be available in all our usual difficulties. Let us know what you think of the format when it comes your way in late July. More. As they say on the nightly news, and finally, it is our mission to provide more engaging, strategic, rewarding, and downright fun fights as the contest evolves. With changes to Act 6, the awesomeness of Book 2, that sweet, sweet Variant 5, and the long-awaited Cavalier Difficulty, there is something for almost everyone. When I say almost, I'm talking about that special group at the top, those that have bested everything and laughed into the abyss. Well, we can't have that now, can we? It's time for a little test. It's time for some real pain. Summer of Pain, it's a working title. As if the summer didn't have enough, we're designing a brand new challenge for the best of MCOC players. Something for those that have blasted through all of Act 6, beat the abyss while on vacation, and treat variants like a stroll along the beach. In response to these feats and to deliver challenges which will test your sanity, we're working on something that may make you question life itself. The strongest, most fearsome, and finger-breakingly difficult Unit Man fights from across the contest will return, but with unique roster requirements, smaller teams, and new ways to play them. Unit Man was not actually in the post, by the way, if you're listening. Later this summer, we'll be throwing down the gauntlet to you, the best of the best. To take on this challenge and reward, you'll be adorned with some unique and intriguing rewards. You'll need all your skill, all your roster, and all your bravery to best the Summer of Pain. Stay tuned as we gear up to reveal more of this new challenge. That's all for today, folks. We're hyped for the future of Quest, and we can't wait to reveal even more over the coming months. Join us on Thursdays as we take a deep dive into the future of Alliances, the MCOC dev team. So, first off, holy crap! Like, they freaking wrote a book. So give me a brief moment to recover my voice, and I'll stick a timestamp here for those of you who skipped the read aloud, probably like a 12-minute read aloud at this point. And let's go here point by point and kind of just discuss. So first off, all this beginning stuff is neat, it's fluff, we get some background, that's all exciting. I love that, I love all that stuff, I really do. But we'll skip it here for the purpose of kind of wrapping things up. We don't need it. I like their vision of quests. I like hearing about the story and the progression of it. Kind of understanding all of that gives you really good insight into kind of the developer perspective, but it also allows us to better compose our criticism to contrast the perspective they have, because it's their perspective we need to influence in order to see proper change in the game. back issues number 5. We got some really good teas that makes me really want to pull the trigger on rank 5ing or rank 3ing my Venom, but we'll hold off for now. So I do love this. This is coming out very soon. So man of the hour, of course, is Venom. I think his greatest rival, of course, is Carnage, and the hero who hunted him is Spider-Man, right? Apologize. I obviously don't have a great Marvel lore, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I really like this other line, or someone like them, which makes me hope that we're going to see a lot of alternative options here as well. Maybe a ton of the Spider-Verse characters in general. I think that would be really cool. Can't wait to see variant 5. I don't mind seeing champion gates. I think that eventually, right, they got to start reworking and reusing similar gate slash lockdown methods, and that's totally fine. I hope this comes with like a minor buff to rewards, but it probably won't. At the least, maybe like some 2017 gems. But again, I would bet against it. As far as moving into Act 6, this champion boss fight, so there are a couple things I didn't expect. I wasn't expecting the no retreat buff node being completely removed. I think that's something I mentioned because that node is just total BS. So actually having that is insane. I'm pretty confident they'll replace it with something else, but I don't think there's really anything else they could put here that was more frustrating than no retreat. Honestly, this is one of the biggest issues that caused the whole Morningstar and Clairvoyant fiasco, and that whole technical discussion, technical writing debate, which I still think I'm right on, and I'd like to have the technical writing corrected. But I totally understand the reason for why they changed the interaction in-game. Just kind of update the descriptions to match it. Yeah, so kind of removing that node definitely is super awesome, but rip to all the people who are using Morningstar right now, or ranked up their Morningstar to do this path specifically. But don't worry, Morningstar's got good value anyways. Reducing the dex from 5 to 3, I think this was one of the most common simplistic answers to this fight. It's going to make a lot of other options. A lot of champions who typically couldn't have done this fight because 5 dexes was just too much and you got chipped away at, can now very reasonably do this fight and just allow the chip, which makes it even easier because the block penetration is also being reduced, which is nice. Block penetration was massive, but honestly just changing it from 5 to 3 means that eating that block damage wouldn't have been as bad. And then this nullify change, something I didn't even really notice because I blew through this fight so fast with Symbiote Supreme, is really pro player. I didn't even realize this was a frustration, but having this change is really nice. So champion fight looking much better. I know a lot of people are going to jump in here afterwards. It's going to be way easier. Let me tell you, it really is that 4th and 5th dex that's super hard. Honestly, getting to 3 is pretty reasonable. Reducing attack values across the entire act. They're sizably reducing the damages. So if you've been holding off on doing Act 6, I think these damage numbers change it enough that Act 6 is going to be almost fun to run across the board. So yeah, you're still going to have frustrating node designs, but they're talking about those as well. So I don't know if their point is to have the boss fights and paths fights changed, but I honestly hope they drop the attack values and change the champion fight. We have confirmed numbers here. I hope they change this next patch. That would be really ideal. I don't see any reason to hold back on that change. And then implement other changes later on. That's what I'd like to see personally. That way anybody who's fine with the node challenge can jump in with lower attack values in the meantime. And people who have specific issues with nodes can wait for those pain points to be fixed up. I love that they're doing a player focus group. If you're wondering, hey, am I going to do it? I'm not. I apologize if you feel like I'm letting the community down, but I've only done a completion run and a handful of other paths, so I don't feel like I'm a very good insight. If you disagree, let me know, because then maybe I'll consider it. It's not for a lack of time. I have a lack of time, but I'd be willing to do it. I'd love to help out Kabam. I just don't feel like I'm a good subject matter expert here. I think there are definitely 20 to 30 other summoners who would be better, but hey, if the community insists I put my voice out there and try to at least attempt to join, let me know and I will. I would absolutely love to have an impact on this game. but just keep in mind, you know, I've only done a completion and a handful of fights, so other paths, so I don't think I'm the best person here, but I do love that they're fixing other things. There's definitely a lot of other pain points. While the champion is the worst of them and the attack values is the worst of it, there are a lot of other really, really frustrating fights and other really, really frustrating paths that I'd like to see retuned. As for when, sometime before December, which is not like the worst amount of wait, but up to 6-month waiting period is also kind of long. So personally, well, you know, maybe take a break. It's honestly not that bad. You can take a nice couple 2 to 3 months off, 2 months, wait till August maybe, or maybe just do the boss rush in July. We got plenty of stuff to keep us tied down until I think they launch this. I think they've done that very cleverly, right? Like in July we're gonna have boss rushes, in August we're gonna have variant 5, come September we have Cavalier Difficulty, which means you just have October and November where you have to like really worry about maybe being stale or bored. So overall, I'd say they've done a really, really good job with their scheduling of content, as long as they can keep the pace there. And that's something I think is super, super, super important. So I'm actually like really, really excited about the game. If there's anything that makes me want a hardcore whale on Marvel Contest of Champion, it's knowing that we've got 3 months straight of awesome content coming our way. That makes me want to just like, sorry, I'm a whale. We'll move on. Book 2, Chapter 1. This is all stuff they've literally already said. This is super neat. I love getting confirmation on energy cost reductions, time to complete lower. Something that I really, really, really like is specifically, is just like the, where is it? The signposting. I think this is cool. So often you have to look up a guide to kind of get an understanding of what's the easy path, or spend a ton of time reading all the notes like me. And it would be really, really nice for Capam to just be like, this is the easy, go this way. So I love that. And I like the concept of like your first path is easy and then it gets progressively harder. I really, really like that, because I feel like once you've done a quest once, it's already inherently easy out of having done it once. So having that scared of difficulty makes it more fun to play, which, excuse me, brings me to my second point, boss fights. And this is something I talked about. I just want to say, when I was talking about the Book 2 Act 1 beta, I said they should put multiple boss fights in here. And they did. Look at it. Awesome. I love it. And I even said, I was like, hey, multiple boss fights would allow you to have more replay value. You'd be able to scale their difficulty. Look, they literally say it. You know, it would be more challenging and more variable for players. It would be more fun. And they put it in the game. I'm so incredibly hyped about this. Because in my opinion, boss fights can be the most frustrating if they're a gut punch and they stop you in your tracks and you can't do anything about them. But they can also be the most rewarding when you get that badass one shot, or you jump in and you get 70% off of a challenging boss in one shot. It can be so incredibly satisfying. But the other thing is, for some people, let's say one, like if the champion boss fight, for example, in that quest, if there were 3 challenging boss fights and everybody was like, oh, don't do the champion, that one's way too hard, he's gonna gate you. And you had 2 other ones who might be also super hard, but maybe not as hard, or maybe, you know, for the champion, you really need good mystic counters, or like Cap Infinity War. Maybe the other champion, the other boss, you need like a really good mutant champion, and it's like, oh, I don't really have a mystic counter, but I do have an awesome mutant champion. This allows Kabam to say, okay, rather than hard gating one gate, we put 3 gates in front of you, and they're all might individually be hard gates, but you're not stuck on this one quest because you can't clear one. You just have to clear one of the 3 gates. I think that's really, really awesome, and I love seeing that, so that's really cool. Cavalier Difficulty is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. I'll be at least attempting the side event Cavalier Difficulty, or Canadian Difficulty, and Herald Difficulty in the meantime. I kind of got to figure out scheduling on when I'm going to do that. I do love that they give us information on the completion rewards. I hate that they didn't give us more, but this gives us a relative idea. So we can assume that the completion rewards are going to give us some form of Tier 5 Basic, Tier 2 Alpha. I hope they give us Tier 1 Alpha and Tier 4 Basic as well, because scarcity in those is becoming more and more of a problem. I also hope this means 6 stones. I'd really like to see 6 stones here. I don't see that, just says rank up to rank 5, but hopefully there are 6 stones here. And then they say specifically tier 5 class catalyst if you can explore. If I had to guess, I'd say 10%. I don't know if that's what it is. I hope it's more. But if I had to guess, I'm going to throw out 2% tier 5 class catalyst for an exploration. Just my prediction. Yeah, it is what it is. So I would guess 1 to 2 5-stars, maybe 15,000 5-star shards for completion. That might be way too much, but I'm just throwing the idea out there. And then I would say I'm standing by it. I'm saying up to a 6-star, a full 6-star for exploration. That might be too much, but that's really what I think it is. So yeah, they talk about why it takes so long. All of this makes totally sense. It also explains the overall scaling of rewards increases and difficulty of uncollected events. They were trying to essentially naturally shift the entire event up. It just didn't work. I don't really have an immediate solution except, you know, maybe do what every other MMORPG game player does, where they just cut off the beginning of the game. Like, I think it's really neat that Kabam is still trying to have new players do Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. All that's really cool. But part of playing an MMORPG is recognizing you need to story skip players. Players need to be able to join and skip at least halfway through. You know, essentially just skip players to Act 3. Make Act 1 and Act 2 one path each. Each quest is one path only. Or maybe make them only boss fights. So you can skip through them super, super quick. You get all the rewards immediately and you jump straight to Act 3. You already have parry and dexterity, and then you start playing the game in Act 3. Or maybe do it all the way up to Act 4, where arguably I would say is when the game starts. I personally feel right now MCOC doesn't start until you get to Act 4. So just hardline people to Act 4. Let them get to Act 4 in maybe 4 or 5 hours tops. I think that's super reasonable. And then you can slowly just upgrade all of the monthly event difficulties, completely nix beginning in normal, and make it so there's only heroic, uncollected, and Cavalier. Then you don't have as much monthly content you need to make. It's just my idea. Just hopefully that's the solution they come to. That's what all the other MMORPGs typically do. But hey, if they have a creative solution, I'd love to hear it. But I think that's the one they'll probably end up going with in like a year and a half from now. Release date. So Cavalier on September 2nd. These are all funny titles. I think that's clever. They talk about Act 1 and Act 2. I don't give a shit about this. I know a lot of people really, really care when they update Act 1s and Act 2 rewards, and they want compensations, and blah, 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 I did it. And I totally understand where you're coming from, but as someone who loves this game and has already done that, or anyone who's actually already done that, let me tell you, you don't need it. There's nothing they could put in Act 1 or Act 2 that is something you absolutely need. Like maybe a handful of energy refills or revives or something like that, sure. But like, as a player, instead of looking at this as, oh, they put stuff in the game I didn't get, that's not fair. Think of it from the perspective of, oh, new players are going to have a faster time. The player base is going to be bigger. There's going to be more hype around the game. That's awesome, because more hype around the game means more money in the developer's pockets. More money in the developer pockets means more content. Focus on it that way. And if you focus on it that way, I think that all of these issues that Kabam has with rewards and compensation and how to handle it, I think becomes a lot better. That said, the way they did it with the whole being granted 10 small energy refills and a champion boost, it's a pretty good way to do it. 10 small energy refills sounds really small, but Act 2 is really, really fast, and it's all 1 energy per path. So, you know, that's plenty of energy. And then beyond the quest, they just talk about, I can't wait for new audio. I would love to see a nice little note here of, hey, also removed Howard the Duck sound effects, but probably not coming. The boss rush sounds super, super awesome. 5, I think it's going to be, that's going to mean 5 5-star crystals, but what I'm really hoping is it means 5 5-star crystals and a 6-star crystal in the Omega quest. Because if they're combining all 5 weeks of the boss fights into a big whammy, I would really, really expect the big whammy has something nice in it. I'd also really like to see the rewards for the boss rushes updated, even if they don't change the difficulty. Just like a 5-star doesn't have the same excitement that it used to. So, you know, make it like maybe 15, make it a featured 5-star crystal, or make it a Nexus crystal. Like, it's just time you added a little more pizzazz to it. That said, Summer of Pain sounds neat. I'm gonna try it if I can, but I'm gonna guess I'm not ready for it unless they drop this like late August or late September, in which case I might be ready for it, but this is probably out my league. So that said, that is the Dev Diary, the future of quests. I will be back on Thursday with another update. And if it's this long, it might be super late, and I apologize for that, but, you know, I got things I got to do in my day-to-day life as well. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Maybe something I missed or overlooked. This thing was massive, so, you know, feel free to keep me informed as well. But as always, I'll talk to you all later. Peace.